Career switching. Now, this is a scary one because it is something that you cannot prevent yourself from. And career switching happens because your body goes through changes that you can't control. Now, in this video, I'm going to take you guys on a small story, and hopefully, I can make you go through this type of transition much more smoothly and much more efficiently. Now, what is career switching? Now, career switching for anyone in the corporate world is basically going into a specific job role, a job title that you have either never done before, you have no prior experience, or you are going finally into a field that you are more ambitious about. And who knows, it might be both, but that has been the case for myself. Now, from the age of 16 to 23 years old, I was a professional football player. And then after the age of 23, I decided to verge or go into the field of cybersecurity. And as I went into this field, bear in mind I had no prior experience whatsoever in information technology or computer science. In fact, my degree was in international business. I'm currently doing my master's in cybersecurity. Turns out that after less than a year of cybersecurity, I was able to get interviews at American Express as well as PwC. And so, what is the secret behind this? Because, listen, career switching is not a bad thing. Now, I believe that career switching is a natural phenomenon, and that's basically because your body, your person, your character goes some type of transformational changes, and very often you can reflect that into your career. Now, for a lot of people, either A, they completely ignore it, right? Or B, they just radically change their career. However, due to, crappy transitions, they're just unable to use or transfer the skills that they have in the previous experience. Now, let's talk about this in a moment, right? Because as I mentioned in the introduction, change is inevitable. There is no way out of this. Your body is changing, your character is evolving, and you are basically transforming. And that is because, and I like to take a philosophy behind this, you have probably heard about the idea of death and reincarnation. Yes, maybe it's mentioned in Christianity with Jesus, death and reincarnation, but what I mean is from more of a psychological perspective, because a lot of these gurus out there, if you listen to them, like Andrew Huberman or Chris Williamson or Alex Hormozi, the idea of death and reincarnation is, in order for you to grow into a character that will allow you to be successful, you need to basically kill that older version of you, right? And so obviously you have to go through this type of death and reincarnation when you start a business, but the same goes to your career, right? And so it happens, I would say, literally every day. If you wake up every single day and you learn something new and you improve yourself and you do your very best and you push yourself to the limit, then obviously this type of mechanism happens every day. But from a macro perspective, in my opinion, I see and I study this from hyper-successful people. You go through at least 3 macro changes, personal changes in life. One, in your very early ages, when you're a teenager reaching puberty. Second is when when you're in college, you're towards the end of your university and you're applying for a job. And the third one is once you have been in the job market for a while, you've been working for a while, then you want to transition to a bigger cause. So yes, there's some people who go 5 changes, 6 changes. It really depends on you. But from what I see, there's at least 3 macro changes that you go through. And so when it comes to career switching, I want you to understand that there are 2 specific types of switching. First, we have the vertical career switching, and then we have the horizontal career switching. Now, the vertical career switching is something like what I underwent, right? From a professional football player to a corporate professional in cybersecurity. It's an absolute radical transition. It was a complete different industry, complete different skill set. However, there are skills that are transferable, but I will talk about this in a different video. But just understand for now that vertical career switching is basically you go from an absolute arbitrary field, from an absolute complete different field than what you are doing now. For example, chef to pilot, football to cyber, or I don't know, a mechanic to a insurance salesman, for example. The second type of career switching we have is horizontal, right? And now, horizontal career switching is more common than you think. In fact, I read a survey, today, that at least 20 to 30% of people go through career switching in the horizontal perspective, and that's mainly because horizontal career switching is often not your fault, right? And let me explain, because there's a statistic that shows that a lot of people that are, for example, in financial analysts, they're transitioning into more like tech consultant role, and that's none of your fault because of the technology development that happen around you. The vertical career switching, in my opinion, is more of like an ambition and personality alignment, although you could argue that the same thing happens for horizontal. But in horizontal, there's more or less often third-party factors out of control that you cannot do anything. And so hence why also career switching and change is inevitable, because it's literally you can't control. And so I want you to understand that when I went through career switching, obviously I did a lot of mistakes, right? And so the first mistake that I don't want you guys to do is to radically, close a chapter and open the next chapter right away. What you got to do is you need to at least prepare yourself mentally for a career switch. But just because you prepare yourself mentally doesn't mean you have to career switch tomorrow. I was thinking of switching from football into cybersecurity since years, since 2-3 years already. But the issue is I swapped too early. I gave up football way too early, and the issue was then I was stuck with a salary gap, because in football I was being paid very well, but because I was it's the fireworks outside. No, but because of I was too excited about career switching, unfortunately I was stuck with salary gaps, and then I couldn't afford my car and my rent and all of these other issues. And so now I'm slowly catching up, because I literally, as I mentioned before, I got interviewed by these companies, and so now I'm catching up. But the first mistake you can't do is to radically change tomorrow. Yes, you might uncover your ambition for a specific job role right now. However, that doesn't mean that you should transition tomorrow, because there might be too many things that you might leave behind. And that comes to point number 2, is that a lot of people, when they career switch, they forget about, or they don't realize, the transferable skills. And now you might be wondering, as a football player, how do I transfer any type of skills into cybersecurity? And here's the kicker. In football, I was, for example, able to learn about teamwork, communication, people management, as well as winning mentality. Those 4 things that I just mentioned is exactly the type of skills that I transferred to cybersecurity. Of course, I needed to learn, technical elements and other things that contribute to cybersecurity, but there were skills that I transferred to cybersecurity that were applicable when I was playing football. And now a lot of people, when they career switch, they just completely leave out the skills that they used before. And even worse, they don't even mention that in the resume. And so a lot of HR recruiters are thinking hang on, this person came from a complete different field, and now he's going into this field. How come he's not transferring any skills, right? And so that is the second thing. Now, the good news is, now let's talk about some of the benefits of career switching. The first one is that if you are career switching, then the good news is you are aligning to what your character and personality is. Now let me repeat, because when I was career switching, I basically I sat down with myself and literally figured out what I really wanted and what my career would align to, right? Career-wise speaking. And so then I realized, football, yes, I'm great at football, but it didn't really align to the specific type of character and the specific type of skill sets I had. And so then once I aligned myself, I realized, this is the field that I want to break to. And now I lean towards my character and personality. The second one is that when you career switch, you go some type of personality or character transformation that is a force that you cannot reckon with. In other words, you are a new character that is much, much better than this one, than your old one. It is 5 times better because you are essentially growing. If you are not career switching, if you are not transforming, essentially becoming a better person, then career switching just is pointless to you. And I'm not saying that okay, now like just because you didn't career switch for the last 10 years doesn't mean you're transforming. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that your character has some type of spark that needs to outgrow itself. And sometimes people put themselves, and I did it to myself many times, a specific limit, a specific obstacle to myself. And because of that, I basically didn't let my character or personality grow to the type of personality it wanted to grow. And I blocked it because mainly of the field I was working in, right? For example, right, let's be a bit contextual. My skill set, I really wanted to showcase my skills in computer and technology. I wanted to show the type of programs I could build, the type of red team activities for hacking I could do. And obviously because of football, I wasn't really able to shine that type of skill set and talent. And so I was basically limiting myself to show that type of skill, right? And the only way I was able to allow that to happen was obviously to radically close it. And yes, I understand it's not easy, and trust me, I went through a lot of shit when this happened, but for the better, right? Remember the idea of death and reincarnation. For you to become better, you need to, one way or the other, kill your older self. Otherwise you'll just get stuck, you won't be moving forward, and life will just be absolutely dull. And so that is basically the gist of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, like and subscribe. If not, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.